Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Float, Odyssey, Telegram, Twitch, and the Prepper Broadcast Network. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is November 6, 2022, and this is episode 199 of the Workshop Podcast. Kind of an exciting number. And in just a minute, we're going to get to a pre-recorded episode I did about a week ago with Nat The Preparedness Guy. But real quick, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Number one, for any and all of my Canadian followers, if you're looking for a good cup of coffee, run by CanadianCoffeeCompany.ca. That is mine and my wife's white label coffee. I picked out the Handyman Grind, and I drink it almost every morning when I'm not drinking my friend Nicole Sauce's Holler Roast Dark. So there's two plugs for coffee right there. But CanadianCoffeeCompany.ca. I've also got some really cool enamel mugs and a water cup, one of the seal insulated ones there as well with the Toolman Tim logo on it. Number two, if you're wondering, hey, has Tim ever tried something out or tested this or that tool or this piece of gear? Run by toolmantim.shop. Easiest place to go, and it will fill you in on whether I've done it or not, but always feel free to reach out to me as well. And number three, I brag about our community all the time. I think it's the best damn community in all of content creation. But check out the Telegram group, guys. The link's in the description below. And if you're not sure if you want to take on another social platform, just try Telegram for a bit. You'll get hooked. And then maybe drop some of the other ones, because that's kind of what I'm in the mood for doing lately. I just love interacting with real people, solving real problems, answering real questions, and learning real shit. All right, and finally, today's tool. Since yesterday's was the 8-battery powerex charger, today is the 4-battery powerex charger and analyzer and refresher. This thing's pretty cool. It's a little more than the 8-battery for cost. It's around $65 American right now. But what it does is, of course, it'll charge your batteries quickly, but it'll also analyze them to tell you if they're healthy. It will tell you the actual capacity of the battery, and it will even bring back to life some formerly dead, unusable, rechargeable batteries. All right, from there, let's dive in to Nat the Preparedness Guy. I had him come by. Him and I have kind of interacted on Instagram quite often. He is a genius when it comes to shorts and reels and funny clips that he does on Instagram and TikTok. Just a great guy. We chatted a bunch. I had him lined up to come on the show. Then we met in real life at Prepper Camp and spent quite a bit of time hanging out, sitting, chatting. He's a cool dude, an awesome dad. And he's so polite that I called him Nate for like the first 3 weeks that I talked to him, and he never, ever bothered to correct me. It's actually Nat. So there you go, guys. But he is into emergency management and just a really smart, awesome, switched-on dude. So let's give him, the workshop hug, support his stuff, and let's dive into the great conversation I had with Nat the Preparedness Guy. Hey, guys. Toolman Tim here. We are back. I've got a great guest this evening. We're going to jump right in a minute because where you are, Nat, is a little bit later than where I am, aren't you?
Just a little bit. But you said you had a great guest? I thought it was my night.
They're waiting in the green room. When we finish, yeah, the green room. I don't know if you can tell. Actually, that's really funny because my office is painted lime green, but it's just beautiful. Can't quite see it. Black backdrop that hides the green. So, nice. How you been, bud?
Awesome.
Good. Yeah, we had a few technical difficulties before we got started, and now we're golden, so we're going good. I've been frigging with TikTok for the last hour trying to get everything up and running, and it just didn't want to go. So we'll get over there eventually.
Yeah.
So how you been?
Pretty good.
Haven't seen you since Prepper Camp. It's been damn close to a month now, hasn't it?
Yeah, almost.
So, guys, I want to tell you a funny story, and I'm sure Nat is just too nice to tell this story. But for like the first 3 months that we interacted, I called him Nate, and he was too damn polite to tell me otherwise. So, and I'm getting ready to prep for the show. We've hung out in real life, and he's just too nice to not tell me that his name is Nat, not Nate. Right, Nat, right?
Yep. Yeah, I tried it once, and then I don't put too much effort into correcting it.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for calling you by the wrong name. Isn't that just, yeah, that's me. I just don't pay attention. So who is Nat the Preparedness Guy? Fill us in. Go way back. Tell me where you grew up. We always, in the workshop, we always get people to share what their first job in high school or before that was, because I love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, so I grew up in Idaho. I was born there. I lived in Colorado a bit, went back to Idaho. Pretty much was raised there. I spent some time in California too. My first job I had to pay taxes on. So on the books was working at the Sonic restaurant when I was in high school.
I just discovered the joys of Sonic for the first time when I was in Tennessee. Had never had it before. Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
I like they have that drink. It's ocean water and it's like Sprite and coconut flavor, and then you add vanilla to it. It's pretty good when you do that. And then I always made my own meals off the menu to make them better.
That's funny. Yeah, I worked at a Dairy Queen straight out of college. I figured I'd put my university degree to good work, and so I got a job as a night manager at Dairy Queen. And we used to love to do after hours experimentation, with all the different things. But
other jobs. I mean, I rolled some hay bales for my uncle, ditch riding. So in Idaho we use irrigation canals.
Yes.
So
okay.
When you open up the canal, somebody has to walk through them and burn the weeds or clear out the tumbleweeds and everything that have basically accumulated over the winter. So you go clear all that just to make sure the water can move smoothly. So we did that every year. It's pretty fun. For ditch riders,
and you mentioned tumbleweeds, and for those who don't live on the prairies, they are a real thing. Just so you know, I went to get out of my vehicle in front of my wife's daycare the other day, and there was an ominous tumbleweed sitting there looking at me like, "What are you going to do, tough guy?"
Yeah.
There's something special about them. I'm not really sure where they originate from. They're just always tumbling. That's all they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they were an actual plant before they started tumbling, but who knows?
I don't know where they ended up. So guys, I found out Nat and I hung out at prepper camp, and I found out that he has not just a degree, but a master's degree in something I didn't know was technically a degree. You want to talk about that a little bit? I think it's pretty cool myself.
Sure, yeah. So my master's is in emergency and disaster management.
And how did you, because that's not typically, when you're 5 years old. I remember they asked me, "Hey, I want to be a firefighter or maybe an astronaut," right? So when you were like 3, did you say, "Hey, when I grow up, I want to work for civil defense or, FEMA or something like that"? Or?
Yeah, had no idea that it even existed as a job. It wasn't until I was in college that I even started to pick up the breadcrumbs that was a career field. I was a medic in the Army, in the National Guard.
Right.
By that point, so I was already interested in the emergency stuff. I like preparedness, and I was Boy Scout, so all the wilderness survival stuff was all interesting to me. And I was like, "What am I going to do?" I switched my major in college. Who knows how many times? I went from English to political science to, and I don't even remember all the majors. I ended up just doing it was kind of like a general degree, because at that point I decided I want to go into emergency management. So I said, how can I get out of here the quickest way possible? And I just took everything and lumped it together and found like this, off-brand degree. And it was public health and emergency care were kind of my class emphasis. So I finished that and went on to start working in the field, and then doing graduate school.
So was graduate school, were you 3 years there or how? Or
yeah. And it was online. So I was able to do it while I was working. That's kind of a one thing about this field is, most of the degrees in the field, there are a few that are brick and mortar, but most of them really try to, are built for the working professional in the field.
And what does someone do who, when you graduate or finish your graduate degree with emergency planning or emergency preparedness? What is it called?
Emergency management.
So where do you go from there?
Sorry, I'm just fixing the lighting here. To the job boards.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. Yeah.
No. So I was already working. I'd entered the field doing doing emergency planning, and still working in the military as a medic. So it's all kind of working together. Eventually, I switched to the Air Guard and did emergency management for them. That's hazmat, incident command, CBRN stuff, all of that involved in that. And then I've worked with a bunch of different communities and jurisdictions, organizations, healthcare, public health, military, higher education, doing emergency management for a bunch of different people. And then I realized there's a pretty big gap. And it's because emergency management is top down. It's
Right.
It's policy and program driven, and it's not necessarily for the people. Now, in a way, it is, because it is the behind the scenes coordination in a disaster for the responding agencies. So you call 911 and you're going to have someone show up. So if it's a law enforcement security issue, police are coming. If it's a fire department's coming. If somebody's hurt, then the ambulance is coming. Or it might be a combination of any or all of those. There's a lot of cross training there. Emergency management isn't really an on-scene type of thing. It's behind the scenes when those resources start getting tapped out, and basically getting to the, hey, there are plenty of things happening in the community. We only have so many resources. How do we connect the dots? And day to day, they handle it super well, even in pretty severe emergencies. But at some point in a large scale disaster, you bring together these decision makers over the jurisdictions or organizations, departments, and the emergency management is just making sure the right people are in the conversation, that they have the right information, that the responders have the right tools, and so whatever job can get done.
Man, there's a lot of avenues I want to go off from this, but let's slide back, because you started off with emergency management is top down, right? And
Yeah.
you and I have had, for whatever reason, and I do not know why, but I've been enthralled with the concept of civil defense for a long time. And part of it was when I first started traveling to the States, I'd see right there, yep, those cool little stickers, or and I thought they're pretty cool, because I got to look into it. I don't think we really quite had something like that in Canada, and if I did, one of my Canadians will definitely
Yeah. There has been, and
Okay.
there currently is some sort of like community emergency response team. I know it's a FEMA program, but there's something like that in some areas of Canada. I had a friend who's from Nova Scotia. And his dad was into their emergency preparedness planning there, and they had satellite phones and would help basically rally community resources. It was a volunteer type of thing.
Was it CERT? CERT? Do you know? Yeah. Okay. I didn't. Yeah, because well, I'll back up a little more. You said Nova Scotia. Do you know where in Nova Scotia? No, because that's where I was born. So I don't know if I told you that or not, but that's where I'm originally from. But
yeah, I probably, if we had a blank map, I probably couldn't even point at where Nova Scotia is. I think it's I don't know how. I think it's on the right side.
Yeah. So you're saying, like, and I get it. Top down has to be, because businesses are basically run top down at this point, for efficiency. But in the past, like kind of the post World War II era, it was definitely, there was top down, but there was a huge emphasis on bottom up, like individual responsibility. Where did that, well, you want to talk about, you can take that in any direction you want. So,
yeah. Civil defense, it was really cool to look at, because over the years it changed. Over the decades, because it started post World War II and lasted into the 80s. And in some form or another. By that point, FEMA had been established, but basically the Cold War response and preparedness is the kind of the basis of what civil defense was. And as that progressed over the decades, it's kind of cool to see. You look at the manuals and how they try to market it and try to push it in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It changed pretty drastically, but at some point, all of it just became expensive, and they weren't seeing any real response from it. Russia hadn't nuked anybody by then, so it's like, is this really, is the juice worth the squeeze? And they scaled back pretty significantly, and it kind of focused on the governmental response, the overarching concepts or ideas, and helping the responding agencies be as effective as possible, and then not spending a lot of resources bottom up with the individuals. And culturally, there was a shift as well.
Yes, that's yeah. Why do you think that is, or was, or whatever the proper word is there?
I mean, I don't think it's specific to preparedness. I think it's kind of in general. As government has expanded, the expectation that they will do for us what we could do for ourselves, but choose not to, grows too. So just the expectation that, and it's because even the most well-intended government program just circumvents the process of self-reliance.
Yes, yeah, and it's not. I don't want to take you down any rabbit holes here that you don't want to. I get it. Yeah, a good example of that was when Trump got into office, and he ended, was it Y2K reporting or compliance for? I want to say it was the CIA. I believe they had to up. So he was in office 2016, 2018, whatever it was, and they were still filing Y2K readiness reports almost 20 years later. So,
wow.
But that's and I didn't bring you on to holler at you for government, but I loved your opening line at prepper camp. What was it? Do you remember?
It's I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes,
so I had that on a slide, and I gave the same presentation, a similar presentation 3 days in a row, so the same class, and presented it to the 3 different groups each day. And every time I pulled that slide up, it's a excerpt from. It's a saying, but Ronald Reagan brought it up, basically saying those are dangerous words.
Right.
And there's always somebody in there that's just like, in the audience, or so people get up to leave. And
it was nice knowing you, Nat.
Yeah,
freaking government. Yeah.
I mean, really, the going to prepper camp was awesome, but I had to start with that because I know people are wondering that, and even when Rick and I were talking ahead of time, he's kind of like, I don't know about this. I think the idea is that nobody likes to be told what to do, or that they're not doing something right or whatever. And that wasn't my intention at all. So as we're kind of working through the concept, starting that way was beneficial, because it just puts it all out there. Like, I am not actually here to from the government telling you what you've got to do. I'm an emergency manager, and I have tools that I use to help organizations that I work with effectively prepare and validate their plans, and go through a training and exercise process. And here are some of those tools for individuals, because that's the gap. There's hardly anything that is bottom up. And we talked about the CERT program, CERT, and that's almost bottom up. Like, that's a pretty empowering program, because it teaches people first aid, firefighting, light search and rescue, disaster psychology. But most organizations that still maintain the program, because the federal funding has dried up. So if there's a jurisdiction that still maintains it, then they want to see a benefit to them. So they want basically a volunteer force to be able to augment their response and their community outreach efforts. I do FEMA training too. There's a lot of value there. For Hunter's F770.
Yeah, he's Hunter's prior force. I'm 99% sure he is, because he's talked about it before. But that's cool. I love. There's so many cool people in the community.
Yeah,
that, they talk about that. And so what's FEMA training? What's entailed in that?
Well, so it's kind of where the standard is, top down. FEMA is the top. So they kind of set some standards for emergency management training, and a lot of it is free. There's online training, independent study. If you just search FEMA independent study, it will have hundreds of independent study courses you can take on tons of different topics. Most of it is related to professional response. So it's not necessarily individual preparedness, but the principles are pretty beneficial applying. You know, I look at it. I have on my website, preparednessguy.com. You can put in your email and you get a free emergency plan for your family, for your home. And the concept there is, here is your immediate response, but then you practice it. You practice this with your family. You go through, you identify your shelter location. So it's taking this thing that I do for an organization and giving you the tools so you can do something like that for your own home. It's all really the same thing. It's just systematic. When I do it as a professional, I'm like, I could do this at home too.
How important is it to get your family involved? Because
Oh,
Nat was one of the few guys, and if I'd have known, I'd have definitely brought Alice with me. It would have been cool. But he brought his kids to prepper camp. And so obviously prepping and preparedness is a part of your family. But how important is that?
it's really important. Kids are our responsibility, and we can't expect them to know what to do in every situation. We basically have to give them every opportunity to be as ready as possible, and it's for the most likely hazards. Know what to do if there's an earthquake. Know how to escape safely if there's a fire. How to do some very basic first aid. Like, that stuff is just kind of foundational, and then you can build on it as you go. So it's fun with the kids. They enjoy doing it. I've done tourniquets with my kids.
Oh, really?
Like a cat tourniquet. And that's what I love about these, is that this is equipment that works. Like, I can make an improvised tourniquet, and most of the time I can make it effective because I've practiced. I know the concepts and the principles. And there's a little bit of controversy out there between like the cat and the rats. There's that rats tourniquet that's kind of the elastic band, and there's this kind of a balance, I guess. Like, the rats can work, but it's not built to work. It's essentially an improvised tourniquet.
Okay.
Can it work? Like, absolutely. It's basically a strap, and it's got some elastic tension, and then you just wrap it. You can wrap it pretty quickly, but you wrap it around the limb many times. But and there are like special forces medics that endorse it and all of that. So it's like, yeah, but you're also a special forces medic and not Joe Schmo. So it relies pretty heavily, and more so any like real improvised tourniquet. If you're making one out of a cravat or something like that, then it relies on the person's ability, not so much on the tool itself. It's something like this. The cat tourniquet is very, very basic. When you put it on, cinch the Velcro, turn the windlass, and then hook it in, and it's good to go. Like, my kids can do it. We haven't practiced it in a while, but they have practiced it, and at pretty young age, kids can do that effectively. So finding equipment and systems that are built to work, like we're relying on a good piece of equipment instead of relying on my kids knowing the principles of emergency medicine.
So they know how to. I mean, like, not referring to your kids here, but the cat tourniquets are much more idiot proof as opposed to the rat tourniquets need special training, right?
Right. And like troubleshooting. So the rats can be effective. I know
Sure.
somebody's probably over there like, oh no, it's the coolest thing ever because so-and-so who is a
Bear Grylls loves it. No, I don't know.
Yeah. So like somebody they see on online loves it, and if you practice with it, any piece of equipment you choose to use, if you practice with it and you're effective, then good for you. I just like to set myself up for success. But like, if you're wrapping it around and then you're done wrapping it and you hook it on with the rats, but then they're still bleeding, so you've got to, well, you could apply a new one, but it's like you didn't apply it tight enough in the first place. You don't have a windlass you can crank it down. Right. You would have to undo it or apply a completely new one. So it's not something that has a system built in to help you troubleshoot or correct. I'm going off on a tangent on tourniquets, but basically involving your kids and getting tools that are effective for even a child to use.
I took after prepper camp, I went to tactical response for 4 days and did pistol and fighting rifle. And their entire mantra behind everything was, we want to make it as simple as possible so that you can duplicate it under extreme stress.
Yes, that is the key to all of it. When your adrenaline's way up here, they got the Cooper color code, which is that. It's I don't have all of it memorized. It's like white, green, yellow, orange, red, black. I don't know if it's all those colors. Essentially, it scales up, and yellow is kind of where you're supposed to be. That's you're alert and aware of your surroundings. If you're down in whatever's in front of that, I don't know if it's green or white. Somebody in the comments might know this better, but essentially it kind of correlates with your heart rate and your adrenaline, and then your intention and awareness. But if you're distracted, then you're not ready for anything. Yellow is, I'm aware, I know where my exits are. I'm watching for abnormal behavior in my surroundings, and then when you get into like a violent force encounter or a high stress emergency situation, your heart rate goes up, your adrenaline goes up, and you were in the yellow perhaps, and that's a normal functioning area. It's a pretty healthy place to be. But as your heart rate goes up, if you get up past orange, that's good.
I didn't mean to bring it up that fast and completely bring it off here. See,
perfect. So all right, white, yellow, orange, red. So white is you're not aware, and like you're on your phone or sleeping. Yes. So you're relaxed, completely unaware. And
bring that up a little.
Yeah, yellow is kind of where you want to be day to day. And then you detect something, you move into orange. Orange is where you should be functioning in a disaster. You don't want to cross over into red, because that's when you start to lose some of your mental acuity. They say you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. And
wow,
yeah, and
great.
In some ways, people rise to the occasion all the time. That's like people help each other out. The best in people is often shown in emergency situations. But when you are, if you are high heart rate, high adrenaline, then you're not thinking clearly. You get your intelligence goes down. So if you haven't trained it, if you haven't practiced these skills. Now, the one example I shared in the course, in the class, which was the same one that was from On Combat by Colonel Dave Grossman. So he's sharing this example where law enforcement agencies they wanted to practice a specific skill of drawing, acquiring a sight picture, and firing on a target. And then they'd reholster so they could reset and do it again. And so it's just over and over, draw, fire 2 shots, reholster, until they're in a violent force encounter and one of the officers, draws, fires twice, and reholsters, but the threat isn't eliminated. Right. So it's got to be real to life. And he calls it a high fidelity simulation. So it's as real to life as possible. So if you get up, your heart rate up, your adrenaline up, that's why you can escalate to use like a fog machine and some training. If you've already mastered the skills, now you're trying to add some complexity to it. But essentially, you break it down into bite-sized pieces, and working with your kids, like you can teach your kid how to feel the back of the door feel the door with the back of their hand. Like, is this warm? They're looking for smoke coming through, or the orange glow. You're teaching them like these very bite-sized pieces, and then you start to build it together, and then you can make a game of it. You can see how quickly the family can get out of the house and get to the meeting location, all of that.
Do your kids sleep on the same floor as you guys, or
yeah,
okay. So that's my big. Our twins, they're 12 now, but they sleep upstairs. So we have plans in place, but it's still not ideal, right?
Right.
We got a bunch of comments here about the color code, so let's bring a few up. Haas says, this is true. You'll be surprised what you remember if you have to do CPR and only do the training once every 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. CPR is pretty simple. But you have to go through the process of assessing, calling for help, get an AED, and then it's like currently it's like 15-2 for respiration for an adult. And but still, like if you haven't practiced that in a while, you're not going through all of the steps. Maybe you didn't call for help. Maybe you don't have an AED coming, and maybe you don't even remember how many of these was I supposed to do, or you're doing compressions for a really long time. You're like, oh, I forgot to do some breaths, or you do breaths and then you sit there and stare at the patient. Lots of different things could happen.
But at least the training's there, and some of it came back. Because can you repeat that saying again? What did you say? You don't rise to the, what is it?
Yeah, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training.
I like that. If that doesn't sum up preparedness, I don't know what does.
All right. When you go back, they call it the lizard brain.
Primordial.
Red is dropping skills,
communication, moving, engagement. That'd be like when you get flipper hands and pasty mouth, and you're like trying to handle a gun, and it feels like you're wearing like middle of the winter mittens, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and one of the tools for trying to re-engage and lower your heart rate and all that is the breathing, like the box breathing, like holding your, like taking a slow breath, like count of 4, holding it for a count of 4, letting it out for a count of 4, holding it, etc. So that's one method of trying to override that. But it's hard to remember to do that when you're already at that level. You're going to get tunnel vision. You're not going to be thinking clearly. Your whole processing of everything is a little bit messed up.
I had a conversation with a lady the other day about box breathing, and she had, I think it's an underrated skill or something that we don't talk about. But she also said if you're in too far of a stressed state, even just the concept of it, but a single breath in, held, and then released is as good as, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it changes your trajectory.
Is that a military thing, box breathing?
It's in the soldier's handbook, but it wasn't really taught. I think it was put in there as a. They don't have, it's not a count of 4. They have a way to count and breathe to get to sleep quickly. It was in the soldier's handbook.
Oh yeah.
When I was in, so it's something to help you relax to get to sleep. But I think military, or people in the military, use it now. It's everywhere. It's in meditation. It's in law enforcement.
I would think being under fire or whatever ends up, being in the middle of all of it, it couldn't hurt.
Right.
Letty says, the group I used to shoot with used to make keychains with colored beads for a fundraiser, and we'd sell them with a cord explaining the different colors and what they mean.
That's awesome. With the Cooper color code on.
Yeah, that is cool. And so, okay, every time I chat with ex-forces guys, I had Greg from Apocalypse Preparedness School out of Edmonton, and he used to walk into minefields and disarm it was just his thing. And I would always ask, I was like, but getting up and speaking in front of a crowd makes him super nervous, but he would run into a minefield without even thinking about it. And this topic just keeps coming up for some reason. I don't know why, but it is what I think it's an under discussed topic in preparedness, is properly handling stress and anxiousness. So I've asked everybody, like, how do you get better at handling it? All I can say is, at least in my, my purview, is going to tactical response where they stress you out and make you, was the best I could find right now. But do you have any advice on that? Like,
that's good. Like finding somebody who is an expert that can put you through some training, but again, taking bite-sized pieces for yourself. You have to have the skill. Like you have to learn these skills as you're going through it. And, otherwise you've got nothing to do. Then, I don't know what I was thinking. Basically just learning the skills and always doing like an after action. Anytime you have a real situation, this ability to handle high stress doesn't always transfer. Like your buddy walking into minefields. So talking in front of people should be no sweat, right? But it doesn't always translate over, which is kind of hard for some people to face. But that kind of is the is the truth of it, that you might be able to handle a really tough situation here, but still have struggles over here. So you have to work on a lot of them independently. Some of it is beneficial overall. You know, your buddy, even though he has a hard time speaking in front of people, probably has a mindset that if he had to, then he's not gonna be fumbling over every single word like he normally would. Maybe he would, but I think
He's
he
going
would
to be
be
the
able.
guy that's going to jump up there and do it anyway because
Right,
he's been exposed to enough stressful situations and
right,
knows that for whatever reason he didn't lose his collective shit.
yes,
So why are you so damn practical? Because people always love to talk about EMPs, all the crazy stuff, but I'm very much a personal apocalypse preparedness type guy. Do you know what I mean?
Um, yeah. I love all this stuff. I've gone deep down the prepper rabbit hole into everything. Um, here's my rabies kit, and if we're talking
Oh
zombies,
yeah. Yep.
um,
That's cute. I like that.
yeah. So I know I love it. It's fun to speculate and figure like what would you do at the end of the world, et cetera, et cetera. But it's missing the mark. And I remember when the CDC came out with if you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, you're prepared for anything. That was the height of the Walking Dead's popularity. There were zombie runs everywhere. Everything was
Yeah.
zombies, and it was fun. And it was kind of like a prepper time to shine. But I started realizing, thinking about it, like that's not really true. Like you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse. When somebody says like, "Oh, if I'm totally prepared for a zombie apocalypse, I'm prepared for everything," but nobody's necessarily totally prepared. But you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, and then the power goes out, and you're like, "Oh, I don't have a zombie to kill. I can't, retrofit my stove to burn wood." You're kind of stuck. Yeah, machete. I've got one somewhere. Um, you've got you just got this gap, and you're missing something when you focus on a specific scenario, which we've all kind of been there. Like I think it's going to be whatever, and I've got my top three, but I realized at some point through studying, through working through all of this, that I was looking in the wrong direction. That was a distraction. It's kind of like when you keep the 24-hour news cycle on. Yeah, there's
Yes.
always something to be scared of. There's something you got to do something. Every day you've got something you got to do. You got to fix whatever. You have to change this. You got to believe something else. Everything is changing, right? So it's all really just a distraction. And instead of focusing on the things that I fear, I thought, you know what? I have needs over here. I have the things that I need, the people that I love, the things that I want to be able to do. And I looked at those and I'm like, oh, those are static. Those are I always need water. I always need food. I always need shelter. I always need some communication. I need some mental health and well-being. I need medical to be able to provide medical care and have my own physical health, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole list of it. And it's like, well, if the power goes out because of an EMP, or it was an ice storm, or it was whatever, somebody's out there blowing up power plants or substations
Right.
or something, it doesn't matter as much. I mean, the response changes a little bit, but I'm out of power. It's the impact that matters, not the hazard as much, unless it's going to have a direct threat on your life, like a tornado. You have to take specific action in that moment. There's my tornado shelter sign.
Well,
You
yeah.
have to take specific action in that moment to save your life. Like your life safety is your need at that moment, and that's it's important. So you plan a response for things that affect your life safety. But when you focus on a specific scenario, you're gonna miss something inevitably. You just will.
100%.
Yeah, and then you kind of get caught up in it. I think that's why people love zombies, is because it's fun to think about. It's like our Dungeons and Dragons or whatever it is, our fantasy football. But then we hit a roadblock in this mental game daydream we're having, and we're like, oh, we'll just change the scenario. Now the zombies aren't as fast as they were, or you want to make it harder. You're like, well, now it's an airborne virus or whatever it is. Like you can change things because it's all made up. But it becomes a doomsday fantasy. But then it's like, okay, at that point, it's just a game, and it's not really practical preparedness anyway. Now, mentally rehearsing things is important. You should go through your response. Like, we'll do that with, like, I'll do it with my kids too, my family. We think, okay, if I'll think about it. If there were a tornado, what would we do? And then I'll ask the kids, hey, if there's a tornado, what do we do? See what they have in their mind. And they usually give good answers. We've gone over this enough times, so they know this is our tornado shelter right here. And then you're thinking about it, you're talking about it, you are walking through it, and then you can do it at a faster pace. So you just escalate the steps that you're going through.
So what I heard you say then was that power outage is slightly more likely to happen than a zombie apocalypse. Did I catch you? Are you
yeah,
sure?
That's true.
Are you sure?
Well, let's see, I've only faced about 3 or 4 zombie apocalypses, but like a dozen power outages. So
this is like 25% then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair. Sorry, everybody. That's sarcasm there. If you didn't.
The focus should be on your basic needs, not on your basic fears.
Now, here's a question, because most people I meet, and you're the preparedness guy. So would you still call yourself a prepper?
So, okay.
And I don't mean a doomsday prepper from the Nat Geo.
Well, which is funny because we know some of those people.
Yes,
you and I both.
Yes, we absolutely, and they are incredible people.
It's a TV show. It's for entertainment purposes.
Right.
So I've got a whole video on my YouTube channel about what is a prepper that I made a couple years ago, I think. And I don't often call myself a prepper, but I have more recently, because it's like, there is such a negative connotation with it, because everyone likes labels, and the labels mean whatever they think it means, not what you think it means. Even if you told them, like, no, I had somebody one time, I told them I was from Idaho, and they said, no, you mean Iowa? I said, no, I'm from Idaho, and I'm pretty sure you mean Iowa.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, no matter what I told him, he didn't even register that he could have been wrong in that situation. And if you say that you're a prepper to somebody, they get the same thing. They're like, oh, I know what that means. You're like, I don't know if you do. It's just making sure that I have my basic needs met. And they're like, no, you're crazy. It's like, okay, what's crazy about it? So more recently, I have been using it just because I don't mind having the conversation, trying to reclaim the word when I mean, not that it's an ancient word. It's a little over 20 years old. I think like 98 or 99 was it when the first,
which blew me away.
I heard that from you.
And
I looked at they had the phrase like survivalist and a bunch of other terms before that, but
retreater was another
retreater.
One. Yeah.
So we've got this thing. I don't mind using it. If somebody brings up that it's crazy, I ask them what part of it is crazy. Right. Acknowledging that bad things happen, or doing something about it.
Right. I think just Hunter was looking for the fill in the blanks there.
Yeah. So I said, prepare for your basic needs, not your basic fears.
There you go.
Or just not for your fears. That was an ad hoc improvised sentence there. It wasn't. I tell people to prepare for their needs, not their fears. But
Nate's pure gold. You can quote him all night long. So there'll be a couple of clips on Fountain, strictly stripped from here. I'm sure of it. So a lot of people come to prepping or preparedness out of an individual fear.
Yep.
And of course it goes like this. Whether it was Y2K, 9/11, the Mayan calendar ending. Oh dear, my right. Whatever it happens to be. And I like to say that fear is a great short-term motivator, but it, like you said, the Cold War, we never got nuked. So people got tired of being scared of it or whatever, right? So how do you switch from I'm prepping for ... like at the opening of every doomsday prepper, I'm prepping for the collapse of society, or I'm prepping for an EMP.
Right.
How do you shift people, or how do you change that mindset?
Yeah. So it's, you talked about the Cold War, the nukes never fell. And people said, you know what, I could put this money towards my retirement plan or my kids' college or to a boat or whatever else. And you got to find a balance. Not that like you should be thinking about all that regular stuff. You should have a good life, an enriching life, and be planning for a retirement. But you should also know that sometimes bad things happen. And anybody who's lived through COVID, like we've all experienced, and people are now, they're just like, I just today I saw somebody on Instagram on somebody else's post commenting like, oh, like what, like when would something like that ever happen? It's like, what yeah, I don't remember specifically what it was, but it's like, this just happened. This just happened. Like in your recent memory, this happened, right? And they're like, oh, you're talking about this, and then they downplay it, and I'm like, my goodness.
Wherever
And
your opinion, yeah, sorry, go ahead. I didn't.
yeah. Well, it's probably the same people that say, "Oh, it's the preppers who made us run out of toilet paper." It's like, nah, they already had it.
Yeah.
It's the rest of you.
Jack Spirko on the Survival Podcast for years, he used to say, it was quite funny. He'd always say things like, "Prepare for losing your job. Prepare for a health issue." But he'd always say, not for crazy things like worldwide pandemics. And I'm like,
surprise.
oh, yeah. Hey guys, here we are. And like I said, wherever you came out, I don't care what your opinion is on what happened. Being prepared for something like that would not have hurt you at all over the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it doesn't matter the where it came from or who was actually responsible for what parts of it. If it was, like the government lockdowns or employee whatever or employer whatever, all of that. The thing to focus on is how it impacted your basic needs. If you were not able to get toilet paper, if you were not able to get your groceries, just throughout all of it, if you couldn't work, you're laid off of your job, those are your basic needs. And it doesn't matter who you're like, don't blame someone else, because it could have been a natural event, could have been an intentional event, could have just been the way things were at that moment. Just focus on your needs.
I think that's why we get along so good. So damn practical. Some people just don't like it. They want to look for, I don't care. You can run down any rabbit hole you want, but like you said, if you're preparing, if you're looking to take care of your basic needs, no matter what happens, it doesn't matter the cause. Mm-hmm. It's just the effect. Is that what you called it? Or you have
an impact.
Impact. Yes. That is so damn practical.
Yeah. I mean, I do try to stay aware of current events, see the trends, the way things are going, a little bit. I stop checking the news every day. I get my news through memes now, and then I go and I research something that I find interesting. But I mean, I feel a lot better now, not worrying about a lot of that stuff. Because what are you going to do different if you're already focusing on meeting your needs? Like, I'm not going to go and fight against Russia right now. Like, and it makes watching the news and getting heated about news topics or social events or whatever it is, makes you pick a side. And if you don't, then you don't have to pick a side. And I don't feel bad about that either. No,
yeah, I love that. You're absolutely right. And I beat that. I actually I did an episode the other day about that. The whole idea was, if I go too far down a rabbit hole with a current event, I want my audience to slap me, because it just doesn't matter. There was, okay, if something really, like if the shit legitimately hit the fan, we're going to find out about it. Somebody, you're going to go on to Instagram and there's going to be a meme about the aliens or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope so.
The morning I woke up and seen all the memes about Will Smith. I'm like, what the hell happened last night? And then you found out. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's not to say crazy bad things won't happen. Like, again, we just went through a pandemic. and worse things will happen. Worse things than that will happen. I feel pretty confident in it, but it still doesn't change my trajectory.
And what good does it do to sit around in your bomb shelter with a tinfoil hat on, worrying about it?
Yeah, it doesn't. You know, I wish I knew people who actually did have a bomb shelter. That would be pretty cool. Go and tour those. I don't know a single person, honestly. Yeah, that's the
Dave Jones made one. Yeah, the NBC
oh yeah
guy.
yeah. I
Yeah,
guess I do know one person.
I'm not spoiling anything here. He's made it public on YouTube. He bought an underground cistern, 2-piece, put it together, and it's a root cellar, And
Yeah.
and if I were to build one, I mean, I have my prepper pantry over here, which was an old. We had a cistern years ago. They would bring water in and deliver it to the house, and then it would pump up. So I beat through the wall and I turned it into a pantry. But it's also a storm shelter if we need it, right? So yeah, there you go. Hunter says, or a tornado shelter.
Yes.
So things need to be practical. That's what I think.
Yeah, and when you're looking at response, now we had that gas shortage a while ago, a couple of years ago, I think now, and it hadn't actually become a shortage. Like there was a run on gas, so the supply that was there readily available, they still had, even if the pipeline didn't come back up, the whole east coast of the U.S. still had like 2 months worth of fuel in the fuel farms. But people, put a run on the gas and went out and bought it all up. That was just an increase in demand, so it wasn't a shortage yet. The shortage would come if they couldn't fix the pipeline, the ransomware, and get that reset. So the shortage could have come, but at that point, you're in response mode, conservation mode. Like that's not the time to prepare. And that's the thing about current events is when something like that happens, it's no longer a preparedness game. It's okay. How are we going to change our regular everyday? I saw that the thing had happened. I got fuel before work, and before no one was at the gas station. Every gas station I passed, it was just like one or two cars. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I guess I'll top off. I had some extra stored at home, and for the rest of the event, I was good. Right. And I had no concerns because for the rest of the event, my way home from work that day, there were lines out of every gas station. It's like, okay, people are. So even though I also went to the gas station that day, it's like maybe I contributed to it early, but the name of the game at that point is conservation. It's like, hey, maybe I could work from home for a couple of days this week and not have to drive, or we're going to consolidate all of our errands into one trip. We'll use the most fuel efficient vehicle or whatever. So your response is relevant to the specific ongoing hazard, to the current event. How am I going to change operations day to day? Not how am I going to change my preparedness? Because preparedness is what happens before. Response is what happens during.
Being aware of that stuff, like just having a mindset to know, okay, well, this might be bad. It might not be bad. Like you said, you went to the gas station that morning. Everybody else went in the evening because they had time to, you were a little proactive in it. And it only takes a few hours. Same thing when COVID started. I always kept N95 masks on hand because we deal with some nasty cleanup sometimes. Mm-hmm. Right? So we were out of town. I went to Home Depot. I picked up a case of N95 masks because I didn't know it was coming, right? But I knew it wouldn't hurt to have some. I got home. Right. I went to my local farm store. I picked up a couple more cases. I didn't clean the shelves out. I added to the supply I had. I went and got a normal order's worth and took them home. And then a day later, you couldn't buy them anywhere. Right. And a lot of times it only takes, like, I don't know, maybe have you, where you live, do you ever have to evacuate or not?
I haven't.
No.
Not to say I couldn't, but I haven't.
But what difference would 2 hours make in an evacuation, right? Like,
right.
Because if you're ahead of the game just a little and you book a hotel, you're like, hey, let's just go stay in a hotel for a night, just for the hell of it, right? Mm-hmm. And you leave 2 hours before everybody else, and everybody else is on the interstate, locked down, gridlocked, and you're having a nice vacation.
Right. Yeah, earlier this year we went to the beach and I'm looking at all the hurricane evacuation routes. There's like one way off of the beach, one road. Um, yeah, it's just like, oh, if something happens, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna try to get the tail end or the front end? Gotta make the call.
Where'd you go to the beach?
North Carolina and Outer Banks.
Okay. We went to Daytona in March. Late March? No, yeah, April. April, I think it was. And I followed the hurricane routes too. I was like, because Daytona, it's still down off a bit. You have to get back up to the 95.
Yeah.
But it would be, to get out of there anyway. So one of my weirdly strange obsessions is Waffle House. And I'm not really sure why, but I love them. Not just their food. Their food's great, but I think I like them even more for their emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
And so I talked to a guy while I was there, and he's like, yeah, one time I was the only guy in I don't know if it was Daytona, but it was one of the stores that stayed open through the entire hurricane. And it was just him, and he had a basic menu. And that got me really enthralled in the whole idea. So do you ever work with Waffle House, or do you know?
I've seen presentations on from them. Craig Fugate, former FEMA administrator, he kind of coined the Waffle House Index.
Yes.
And that was basically like Hurricane Katrina era. That if that's how they could kind of pinpoint how bad an area was, because they needed something that was consistent across the board. That they couldn't just say like, okay, how many people are displaced? You can't really see that, or is electricity working? It's hard to look. They said, okay, there are Waffle Houses everywhere. Yeah. So let's basically call up each Waffle House or go and visit each Waffle House. If they're running full operations, the area doesn't need your help. If they're running a limited menu, then it's hit pretty bad. If they're closed, that's the most severe. Like that's a decimated area. And it was rare for them to be closed because they do have very robust emergency planning, which is crazy. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
No, it is crazy. You can use that word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
out of the ordinary.
Right. Yeah, it's out of the ordinary for a business like that to have such a robust emergency plan, and it's awesome because they're a restaurant. They're fast food restaurant, or a little diner, and and it's the people that are getting paid hourly. They're not necessarily like really committed to the job, but they do better than pretty much any other organization at showing up and taking care of their own.
I've reached out on LinkedIn a couple of times. I want to get somebody way up on my show from Waffle House, and it'll be a great interview. It'll be a very honorable, and it won't be like a picking at you interview. I really want to pick their brain and hear their story about how all this came about, because it is so, like you said, it's weird. They're just these cinder block buildings with great big glass windows with a grill in them, and all they do is serve mediocre diner food, which for whatever reason tastes incredible. Yet they have this mindset that they're going to stay open or serve the people as no matter what, basically.
Yeah. I went to a Waffle House one time with a group of people, and one of them ordered a hot cocoa, and they were given a mug of hot water and then a mound of powdered cocoa mix on the top, and they're like, okay, mix it in. Yeah, it is. It's just super cool what they're able to do.
And yeah, they're during the recent, what was the big hurricane in Florida recently?
Let's see, Ian. Yeah.
There was, I think it was 21 Waffle Houses closed. So you knew when they close, it's serious, because it was bad, like really bad.
Yeah. The people can't get to work. There's no electricity there. They keep some amount of food on hand, and most of it's shelf stable.
And they have different menus too, depending on what services they have available. So they have like a propane only menu, and do you ever see they round up their prices in really bad scenarios where they take cash only, and they'll round their price up to the nearest dollar, so you don't have to make change.
Wow, that's awesome.
Round it up or down.
Right.
Yeah. I did like a whole hour and 20-minute episode on it. I don't know why. It's intriguing. It's very, very interesting.
Well, because no one's forcing them to do it too. Like, that's another thing. It's
right.
It's like you could see a really cool program that a city or a county is putting on. You're like, okay, but that's like, their government initiative. whatever. This is just a private company.
They're
That's
spending their money on it.
yeah, and it's just cool to see it work better than most other places.
So does like FEMA and most of the other, or I guess FEMA is the big one, right? The big emergency response.
Well,
Or
yeah,
yeah,
kind of. So they're a federal agency.
okay,
They're not. I mean, they're not supposed to be the primary response agency, right? They come in after the fact and help coordinate things, help with recovery. They do have their response role. Like everyone in FEMA is an emergency manager. That's
okay,
kind of what they say. Like you work for FEMA, you're an emergency manager, and um, so they all have an emergency role. They could go and support and help with it. Helps augment the state's incident management team or whatever it is, but um, really, all disasters are local,
right,
right? So you take care of what is around you. Your community is taken care of, and then if you can't handle something, you're going out to your friends, neighbors, family, church or community groups. Obviously 911 or whatever else. If they can't manage it, then they're reaching out. They've got agreements with the jurisdictions that are around, trying to get support. If they can't, they're going to the state supporting them. If they can't get them, then they're going to get some federal resources in there. So everything is supposed to be managed at the lowest level possible.
oh, so are there well, not I don't like the word stockpile, but does FEMA, do they have much for resources, or do they just have strategic partners at this point?
Yeah, it's mostly partners with just agreements. There are some resources like medications, medical supplies, stuff like that. That mostly through the CDC or the National Health Service or whatever it is, that they have this strategic national stockpile of that. And there are some other emergency supplies there, but mostly it's working with private companies, and they pay for it and whatever else, but um, the infrastructure for moving large amounts of supplies is already there in the private sector. So
Right.
they come in and they say, hey, we need whatever. That company, whatever is Home Depot for building supplies, could be Walmart or Cisco. Like Cisco's like a
Oh, right.
distribution, a food distribution
Mm-hmm.
company. They could have an agreement with one of them, and then they can just truck it in with their own trucks. They're the ones who already have the trucks. FEMA doesn't have to maintain all of that.
So it's run a bit like a business in a sense, trying
A
to
little
be
bit,
as, you're relying on the just in time delivery, and you're relying on other retailers as your warehousing,
right?
and that way you don't have to worry about rotating stock either, because I
Yeah,
think that became an issue in the Cold War era, didn't it?
yeah. I mean, I heard stories about people who were clearing out civil defense shelters, and they were just dumping barrels and barrels of supplies, and I'm like, you know, wishing they'd saved me a few
Yeah.
things, some Geiger counters and whatever else, good relics from the day. Um, yeah, so they don't. It would just be a huge task for them to maintain all of that, and it's better to just build the relationships and say, hey, we need some help, and then they send them in. And volunteer organizations show up like crazy, and they'll bring people, they'll bring food, resources. Restaurants that are somewhat local will start to bring it, and then it becomes a problem if too much stuff is brought in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the emergency management side of it too, is coordinating volunteers and donations. They call the donations that come, they call that the disaster after the disaster,
Hmm.
because all of a sudden you've just got a bunch of stuff. It's like, well, where are we going to store it? How are we going to distribute it? How are we going to prioritize this? In almost every situation, if you're going to donate something to a disaster-stricken area, you just find a reputable or trustworthy uh, place and donate money to them, and then they'll get what they need with that money.
Because they know better. They know how
Right.
to use it. In
Yeah.
theory, I mean, they're yeah.
There were stories of like an earthquake in Haiti, earthquake or hurricane. I don't know, they have something a couple times a year. Something comes and wipes out the Caribbean. and there were just like these shipping containers that showed up with fur coats.
Oh,
And it's like, what are we going to do with that? But somebody got their tax write-off for donating some
right.
stuff, and now they've got someone else has to deal with that. And what are they going to do? They're going to throw it away. It's going to go fill a landfill.
That's a shame. But it's true.
Yeah.
I've seen it. They do the same thing. Like, they canned food drives, coat drives, whatever it happens to be, whatever the issue is of the week. And then the materials just sit in port or never get there, or they're impractical. You just walk by, for instance, I go into my local grocery store and I walk by the bin for the food bank.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff in there is just like, somebody was just cleaning out their pantry, and it's absolute junk, and I know beggars can't be choosers, whatever, but yeah, it happens.
Yeah, that's true. And that's another thing about all of that is the individual needs, and when you aren't self-reliant and you basically have to depend on somebody else, like you often get the worst of it,
Garbanzo eggs.
Yeah, it's just like, what are you even going to make with this stuff? And sometimes, emergency management top down, one size fits all, basically says, build a kit, make a plan, stay informed. And it's like that's kind of the one size fits all, but it doesn't really meet everybody's needs. For some people, it's like, yeah, been there, done that. Now what? But some other people, they say, I can't put away 3 days worth of food because I don't have today's worth of food. Like, I don't have enough food to feed my family today. So how are they supposed to, plan for 3 days and just be able to set that aside? And then there's the whole spectrum everywhere in between. But some people are impacted differently by disasters, and based on their own socioeconomic status or where their house is or what their house is made of, all sorts of details. And it all has to be focused on the individual circumstance and needs. And it's got to be bottom up for it to really be effective. And then you can build. Being self-reliant doesn't mean you don't work together. It doesn't mean you're a lone wolf and you're isolated from everyone else. Like, you can help and receive help, and you can network and be ready to work together with other people. And that's when survival is more likely, is when you're working together with other people.
I like that about not being a lone wolf, because being prepared, I think, helps you be able to help others too.
Mm-hmm.
What do you? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, we've got the keyboard warriors who are like, anybody who comes within 50 yards of my house, I'm going to blow them away. And it's like, when, like, after there was a power outage, or like, are you talking zombie apocalypse? And some people just have the post-apocalyptic mindset. For them, they're like really into that prepper fantasy football.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's like, no, you're not. You're not going to do that, really. Most people, though, so you got these people that are really stuck in their heads with that sort of thing. Most people, though, that I've interacted with in reality or online, really just are good, helpful people, would be more than happy to share with other people. And yeah, it's a good point, Hunter. Like, you can't feed the hungry if you're starving. There's only so much you can do for other people. But when you are in a community or a neighborhood, like, I'm not going to let the neighbor's kid starve, or the neighbor starve. At some point you get to where, if it were a large scale long-term disaster, and even if it's not zombies, like apocalyptic or doomsday scenarios, again, all disasters are local. What is a war zone, or what is a post hurricane zone? Like, those are apocalyptic, and it's temporary. It comes back, but your life is going to be changed forever because of that impact. When the Great Depression, or all sorts of stuff, we could go down a whole list. Like, and you could really be at a time of hardship for a long time, but at that point you figure out, okay, how do I continue to replenish this? And that's where skills like gardening come in. And like I said earlier, things probably will get worse than they have been in the last couple of years. It just kind of with the way things are headed. the economy, the supply chain, how it's all interrelated, and how every solution, everyone expects a top-down solution, which inevitably makes it worse. Yes. And it's all just we've got social contention, all sorts of whatever. Anyway, some anything could happen. Things could get worse. The issue there is that here in North America, we are not familiar with hardship.
Right.
A lot of us think, oh well, I was pretty poor when I was growing up. I living off government cheese or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, but that's not real hardship. I mean, a lot of people have experienced it, but the vast majority of people have not. And like, we live in a very convenient, very amazing society that it's not like we should not participate in that society, but we should also know that it is fragile. And if our basic needs are, if we've abdicated that responsibility and said, okay, somebody else can take care of that for me, then we're leaving ourselves vulnerable. So we just have to make ourselves less vulnerable. Not that we can't experience convenience or comfort, but that we don't allow it to be a vulnerability. So it's like, absolutely, I'm going to use electric heat and air conditioning. But also I'm ready for if I don't have that. And some of it's temporary solution. Like, I'm not going to run my generator for several years if the grid goes down. You'll have to integrate into more primitive things, hypothetically.
I get it a lot. Whenever I mention I've got a tri-fuel generator, my fuel of choice is natural gas, because in all the power outages we've had on the prairies, natural gas has always kept running because it's very redundant and it's very resilient. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't get shut off, but everybody always says, why are you going to hook up the natural gas? Because the government's just going to shut it off on you. Well, I do store gasoline in propane too, but why the hell wouldn't I use natural gas?
Right, it's there.
It's the most practical thing, like why wouldn't you stay at a hotel if you're evacuating from a hurricane? It only makes sense. Like,
it's like the casual preppers,
I love, I had
they're great.
on here. They were great.
They talk about how people bring that up all the time. Well, in a doomsday scenario, you wouldn't even have that. It's like, well, you wouldn't have your phone either, and you're trolling me on your phone. Like, just shut off everything, put it all away. And it's kind of the same thing. Everyone's got something to say. It's like, yes, at some point, if society collapses, grid goes down, et cetera, you're going to be without everything, and you're going to have to replace it. But that doesn't mean not to use the tools you have available now.
What? It's almost like some people think it's an either or. Either I'm prepared so I can't use it. And it's like the person that goes out in the woods and says, okay, I'm going to start a fire with 2 sticks. But they could have taken, and it's, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm not a bushcraft guy, but I'm going to take a Bic lighter with me just because I get it. Like, I don't know. You don't have to suffer. The idea is to mitigate the suffering.
Yeah, right? That's what preparedness is about, is not suffering. It's make yourself as comfortable as possible when hardship is around you. When you've had all of your needs and your entire life disrupted, you've already done something to meet those needs and to keep your life as normal as possible.
I got 3 different ways to make coffee when the power's out. So, because that's very important to me,
You're set.
And my place is a place where people can get hot coffee if the power's out, right? So
you've got those bunker beans.
I do have some of those now, so that, I guess that's a whole nother story. But yes, I did bring some of those home.
Disaster coffee.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, but I think it's awesome what James is doing there. I love all the varieties they come up with.
I was hoping that they wouldn't ask me what those green beans were when I came across the border. I was pretty sure they're okay, but just sometimes you don't know. Yeah. You get the wrong guy and they're like, what is that? So.
Yep.
Well, we have been 1 hour and 10 minutes, Nat. Where?
Oh, that's all? We're only halfway through?
We can go. Hey, I love going forever, but you, I wanted to ask you about this and we never got this far with it, but how do you've got a different approach to social media and content than a lot of people in the preparedness sphere, and I kind of
Yeah.
really dig it.
Oh, thanks.
How did you, the cheesy shorts videos where you do the voiceovers and things like that?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get into that? Where did that come from?
I like sharing practical tips too. But at some point, like I said, I've gone down the rabbit hole. I've gone into all the forums and message boards and everything with the preppers, and that's where you get the keyboard warriors. Like anybody comes near my house, I'm blowing them away. Like, oh, okay, like I just had a question about
Just want to know how to grow vegetables. Leave me alone,
right, yeah, something like that. But I've like completely delved in to all of it. Yeah, trust me on that, I guess. But I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like it's just this negative. That's where you find some of the gatekeepers and stuff. So you've got that end of the spectrum. Then you have people that are very open and welcoming, but are still fear mongering. They're just like the clickbaity type thing where that's very much focused on current events and hyping you up.
Where we were at events recently that you find, so yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Well, I see all of these different approaches and like, man, that's just not me. That's not my style. And I guess I haven't really known what my style is, except that I want to be practical. I want to use as much real life experience and wisdom that I've been able to glean, take lessons learned from other people and apply them. And then, I start getting on social media and I'm kind of directionless. And then I start doing those reels and having some fun with it. It's like, yeah, this is the fun way to get people interested. Here in my background for my videos, I've got this gumball machine, and I got that, I don't know, years and years ago. I got it from I went back to visit a town I had lived in when I was in the 7th grade, and I helped my teacher move some stuff around. She's like, "Here, have this gumball machine." My 7th grade teacher, who was just like I rode my bike past her house or something, and she's like, "Oh, come help me move some stuff." I don't know, crazy story. So my brother and I went, and I got this gumball machine. Anyway, it's fun to have. One thing is, I remember actually filling it with candy at my house. Yeah, I was the one who put the most quarters in, but I got a cut of it. My dad would buy the candy, and then I'd get a cut of all the profits. It's like, okay, there's an aspect of entrepreneurship which I'm not very good at. I'm pretty terrible at it actually, but I'm learning. I'm trying to do better. The other aspect is that the gumball machine is fun, and that it reminds me not to take myself too seriously. Like, yeah, I'm a professional emergency manager, but I'm really just trying not to be a square and just have fun with this. And like, you can be silly, but you can still be professional too. Like, I can share valuable information, but I can introduce it in a way that gets people laughing or thinking about it, and they can relate to where they are. As I'm trying to meet people, I'm trying to bridge the gap between all the preppers, emergency managers, and people that are in between somewhere, and just connect the dots, because these are basic principles that apply to everybody. And I don't ever want to. We talked about fear is a good motivator. Like, it is.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful motivator for as far as like studies. I mean, I researched this pretty heavily in my graduate program, because I wrote my thesis was on individual preparedness programs, and the most effective driver for individual preparedness is fear, but it's not lasting. It's not effective, and it usually doesn't lead to real practical. Yeah. So the people will go and they'll buy like a kit off of Amazon that looks something like that, and this is just a backpack that I filled up, but that's my prop for when I want to show like an Amazon emergency kit.
That's not enough.
Yeah, they'll go and buy something off the shelf or off of Amazon. They're like, okay, well, now I'm good. And then they're actually less prepared than they were, or in worse shape. It's like, yeah, they've got something, but it doesn't meet their needs, but they think that they're prepared. Before they didn't think they were prepared. Then they got scared, but now they think they're prepared, and that's more dangerous. Same with an organization. If they write an emergency plan and put it on their shelf, they think they're good. But if they're not doing drills and exercises regularly and validating it and updating it, you've got to practice and then assess it. You have to look at it and say, all right, what went well, what didn't, what do we need to change the plan? Do we need to change the training? And then put that into it and redo it. Keep going.
Did you say what was it? Training and exercises? Was that
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference?
Oh, well, training would be learning the skill or practicing the skill, and then exercising. Well, exercising is putting it into practical application. So, training.
Practical example of how that would work. Like, let's do a family, because we're not, even if we are business owners here, I'm not going to do my own emergency plan with just myself, right? Because I solopreneur. So how would you do something? What's the difference in a family scenario?
Yeah. So with a family, we could have a conversation. Let's say you're focusing on a tornado drill or a tornado response. That's what you're doing. So you go to my website and you get yourself a free emergency plan, and preparednessguy.com. It's pretty good. I think it's pretty effective. As a training and exercise tool, mostly. That's the key to it. So you sit down with your family and you say, hey, we've had some tornado warnings. Can you kids tell me what we would do in this situation if there were a tornado? And they're like, oh, cover your heads, or we'll not go outside. Yeah, like they usually come up with the right answer. Sometimes they come up with silly answers. Sometimes they come up with the wrong answer. And then you just educate them. Yeah, when there's a tornado outside, we want to be inside. We want to be away from the outside walls. We want to be on the bottom level. And if there are any skills that they need, a specific skill that they would need, then you train that. Like a training is when you learn a specific skill, but also talking through this. So give them a training on what we're doing when a tornado hits. And then I can even walk them through it. Like, okay, let's go downstairs. We go down in the basement, and here's your emergency kit. And you break it up into different things. So using items in your emergency kit, it could just be like, oh, here's some emergency food. Now this is a pretty classic emergency food. The compact provisions is one. It's like the Mayday bars, and like the Coast Guard type things. And they're just bricks of food, like wheat and whatever else. These ones aren't exactly like the Mayday ones. These are like hard cream of wheat, or like cream of wheat bars or something. But you can soak them and make them into that essentially. But it's like, okay, is this something that's in an emergency kit? If so, let's taste it. Let's try it. Are we going to have to use a water filter? I recommend having bottled water on hand, so you don't have to filter it until you run out of regular water. Basically as little work as you can do. But we have some of this emergency food, but we've got granola bars, MREs, some freeze-dried food. Anyway, so with the training, it's like, how do you make this an MRE night? Like that's a training, right? And then when you exercise it is when you have a scenario, and you could do a talking through it as a tabletop exercise. So, okay, now that you know what we're supposed to do in a tornado, let's say you are in your bed at night and we're doing a tabletop exercise. You're doing a tabletop exercise. You're in your bed at night. We get a tornado warning. You hear me yell, "Hey kids, it's we're going to have to go down to the shelter. So what are you going to do?" And they can just talk through the scenario as they go downstairs. If they have like a book light by their bed, they can take that. We have these little rechargeable book lights. That's their flashlight for by their bed. So they grab their book light and they can use that to get down to the basement. They can bring their blankets with them. Like, so we talk about the things that they would want to do, and then we say, after we talk through it, how would you want to change that? And then let's practice skills. And then you go into a operations-based exercise, which is when you do it, and you can do it at a slow pace or real-time pace. Basically, you just could tell them some random time, okay, tornado drill, what are we going to do? And you time them, like, we've got 30 seconds to get to the basement or whatever it is. And you get down to the basement, and then you can sit down there and eat some snacks and watch a movie. I try to keep a movie saved on my phone from like Netflix or whatever all the time. You can download them. Try to always keep one just in case the cell signal's not good or the Wi-Fi is out or whatever. I try to keep some device with some movie downloaded, and then some snacks. It's chocolate or candy or whatever, plus whatever other boring food we've got. But we try to we try to lean into gummies and stuff as part of the emergency kit food, the MREs and all that.
You can tell he's a dad, guys, because he covered the two essentials: entertainment and sugar.
Yeah.
And if you have those two things, it'll make it'll make bad situations slightly better.
Several years ago, the first tornado warning we had, that was the solution. I put on a movie and gave my kids some chocolate, and like one of my kids was terrified. He was mortified that this tornado was going to get him, and I kept reassuring him. And at some point, reassurances weren't going to work, but distractions did. So I distracted him, and he was fine. Speaking of being a dad, I've got this shirt. It's my trifecta. So this is my emergency management / dad shirt, but it's also because I'm on with the Toolman. This is the trifecta. This is what this shirt was made for.
I gotta see that. This is not. Oh, it's a dad drill. It's a dad joke. It's a handyman joke, and it's a preparedness joke.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible. That's even better than "Where's my hose at?" joke you started with.
Yeah, where the hose at?
that is quintessential. Yeah, dad, handyman, prepared. I love it. Hunter mentioned I'd actually forgotten about this, and we need to revisit it. My wife and I. So we have a daycare that my wife, basically my wife runs with her sister. And last summer, now we do get tornadoes in Alberta, so it's not we're on the prairies, but typically, is F1 the lowest or like the lowest? Yeah. So typically they're below an F1. We've only ever had a few F2s and but they do still come through here, and we'll get plow winds that'll come through that'll be like just about a tornado. They can be bad. Anyway, she was at the daycare one day and got a tornado warning, not just a watch, but a warning. And she called me. She's like, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, take the kids in your office. It's the the prevailing winds. It's the furthest. It's in the basement, and all of that." And so that's what we came up with in a very short period of time. But it's hard when they're less than 5 years old, because you don't want to scare the hell out of them either, right?
Right.
But it worked. She did it for the time being, and
you can make a game out of it too. Like, you don't have to give full information to all these kids about what's going on.
Haas has got a question for you. Said, how often would you do a full scenario? I.e., go ahead.
Yeah, or bug out to another location. Not very often. Now a bug out. Bugging out is kind of synonymous with like a bad SHTF type of scenario. Yeah. Like that's where the term comes in. But essentially, it's an evacuation. Right. You should be planned to evacuate, and that can happen anytime. Like if you plan on an evacuation route or location, and you're going to go visit that place. Like one of our evacuation locations is my in-laws. So if we go to the in-laws, then maybe we'll take an alternate route to get there. So it's not that we're going to load up all of our equipment. Your emergency kit should be portable. You might have a bug out bag specific, or just your emergency supplies that are in your buckets, tote, backpacks, whatever it is. And it should be portable, but let's go the regular route. This is the way we hope to be able to go. Well, what if that was blocked? Now let's try something else and just go an alternate route and try something. Or like you said earlier, like let's go stay a night in a hotel. And not that you can do that, but what are the places I'm going to get to? Just understand your area and then how you're going to get to a safe location. Another aspect we talk about training and exercises, like medical skills. We talked about the tourniquet. So you're training that, and you can run drills. You run drills on specific skills, and a drill is an exercise. But then you can incorporate some of those skills together. So if you do a tornado drill or an earthquake drill or a fire drill, and you do your initial response, then you tell your kids, okay, now I'm injured or you're injured. How are we going to do that? And then they can practice the medical skills that they've done. Or how would you use this fire extinguisher? The house is on fire. Obviously you're not going to put out the entire house with it, but if you got a small fire, how would they do that? Where's the fire extinguisher? Show me how you would use it. Not actually use it. You can get some, especially if it's expired. Get some to use. yeah, when you push through equipment, or you're rotating out of it, put it into your training stuff. And your fire extinguisher, if you've got a disposable one and it's coming up on the expiration date, buy a new one and then go and practice with the old one. You can light a fire to actually put it out, or just spray it at the ground and practice.
I find a lot of, so I go in and secure empty houses, properties, bank properties quite often. And I have found, I have one fire extinguisher that's 80 to 90 years old, the old tube
Wow.
ones. It's just like a cardboard tube. So I found that hiding like up in like the floor joists in a basement, right? Just happened to see it and I brought it home. So I have like this whole, I don't know, 5 or 6 fire extinguishers from all different years.
Wow.
So at some point I'm going to do a video where I test them all to see if they're all still viable or not.
Oh.
But it'll be fun. Have you tried First Alert fire spray at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So
that's the canned one, right?
Yeah.
No, I haven't tried it.
It's incredible.
Yep.
So my 10-year-old girls, we went out back and I started a cardboard fire in a fire pit. And I give them the can. I said, here you go, put it out. Didn't give them any training or anything. They popped the lid off, pushed it, had the fire out in no time.
That's awesome.
The stuff is awesome. I've used it on my barbecue. Some people roll their eyes when I say this, but I still ate the steaks afterwards because it's 100% safe. And awesome. There's no cleanup. There's no powder or anything. And you buy them for a 2-pack at,
what is it, like carbon dioxide or something?
I think so. Yeah. I'll have to look. I'll tell you for sure. But it looks like an aerosol can. You get 2 of them for $30 at Costco. And how much cheaper is that? They last 5 years. And they don't need to be recharged every year and inspected. And, I know fire people will say it's not an excuse or a replacement but here's my thing. What's better? A single fire extinguisher in the pantry, nowhere where you need it, hasn't been recharged since 1983, or 6 of those cans in all the places around your house where the likelihood of a fire is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, again, setting yourself up for success. Like, yeah, do both, but have the easiest thing to use, the easiest to access. Like you said, your kids got out there and just without any instruction were able to use it. So that's something that if it meets your need, that would be better off than something that's more difficult to use.
Your little 25 ACP or your 32 special or whatever in your pocket is way better than the 45 you left at home, right?
Yeah.
Is what it is. But yeah. So you were talking about planning, evacuations, emergencies, bugging out. How do you start that? Where do you did you put a plan on paper? Did you talk about it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we use the plan that I created at my house. So you can get it again on my website, preparednessguy.com. Put in your email, you'll get it emailed to you as a PDF, and you can print it off. So we printed it off and bound it. And it asked, like, where's our shelter location? Where's an evacuation? Where are we going to meet outside of our home? Where's a place outside of our neighborhood and outside of the city? So basically, we have tiers of places where we're going to go. And then, like I'm not looking at super large scale type of things. Like getting like the off road trails, et cetera. But I do try to stay familiar with the regular routes. Just that's an immediate response type of plan. It's an emergency action plan. And that's because, hey, there's a life-threatening situation. What do we do? And it talks you through it, gives you some tips, and then also how to practice those. So that's what we do. I use my own plan. And when you're looking at like a evacuation location, you have to just find places that are natural. Like I'm not going to the wild. I'm not going to the mountains to evacuate. I'm looking at my in-laws or a friend's house, which is closer, or a hotel in the next town over. We got plenty of friends in the area who we kind of have as like backups, but I'm not like, oh, I'm going to the national park and we're gonna live off the land.
Not very practical.
No, it's not going to happen. I mean, I have a little bit of wilderness survival bushcrafting skills, but not like that.
When I left Camden, Tennessee, I was halfway between Camden and Omaha, Nebraska. And I was having trouble with my data right from day one when I got to the States. And because out of country is a pain in the butt anyway. And I thought I had it situated. And about halfway through, my data completely went. And guess what I was using my phone for? GPS. So, I knew the interstate I needed to be on at the moment, but I didn't know where my next turn was. And I didn't have an atlas with me. So one little thing I figured out since is to take screenshots of your GPS so you know the full location, at least to start. And I also picked up a paper atlas to have in the truck. So we learn from our stupid ass mistakes, right?
Yes, we do. And that is important because we're all going to make mistakes, and you want to make mistakes when it's not in a life-threatening situation. Like, you want to push yourself to where you're likely to make mistakes. Like, don't make it easy for yourself all the time. Like, just, it is okay to make mistakes. It's better to make your mistakes in training and in exercises than in a real situation. You're going to make mistakes in a real situation too, but always try to document it, do an after action. Okay, this is the issue that happened. How are we going to fix it? And then do it, like, fix it.
You've mentioned after action reports a couple of times. What's a good real life example, or how can you use one of those to benefit your family preparedness plan for sure?
Yeah, well, most of it is, let's say you picked an assembly area outside your home,
okay,
and for your family, and you get out there in an exercise, and you're like, wow, we're actually pretty close to our house. If that was on fire, or if there had been an earthquake or whatever that we evacuated from, we're kind of still in the danger zone. So you just say, okay, hey, what do you think would be a better area? Most of it's going to be just a conversation, or you ask them what they could have done better, or how they feel they did, and you want to know what they did well too. You got to reinforce all the good things. But most of it is just a conversation, and then you can document it if you want. You can just do like a spreadsheet. Here's the issue. Here's the corrective action. Here's who's responsible for fixing it, and then like a timeline. But just having the conversation. Hey, how could we have done better in that? Or I noticed this happened. How can we make sure that doesn't happen again? And then if you either change your plan or you change your training when you learn something. And when I run exercises professionally, I always emphasize that I'm not testing the people. This is a no fault exercise. I'm not. They don't like. It's not like a pass or fail type of thing, or they're going to get points docked from them, or whatever it is. It's I'm testing. I'm testing the process. I'm testing the plan, and that the training has been effective. If they don't succeed, if they followed the plan and didn't succeed, I need to change the plan. If they didn't follow the plan and didn't succeed, then I need to change the training so that I train them to the plan. And you can go back and you can modify your plan a little bit, or you modify your training. So if they weren't effective at putting a tourniquet on, then we're going to go back and practice that. And that's how you implement it for a training. And then if something needs to change in your plan, you went a specific route and you didn't like how it looked, or if you get down in your tornado shelter area and you identify that there's a window there or something, you got to modify that. Just pick a different spot. So your plan is changing.
There you go with your pragmatism again. I just don't get it, No, that's cool. There's another everyday skill that maybe is lacking a bit, is learning from mistakes, or people get down on themselves for shit. I screwed up. Well, yeah, so what? The only real mistake, I think, is one you don't learn from.
Yeah, drive on.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, you've got one of two options. You lose your collective mind, lay there and cry like a baby, or you do something different, right?
Yeah, like that's one thing that I've learned in emergency management is just like embracing the mistake, because that's the only way you're going to become better. Like my entire job is making sure I'm as effective as possible when bad things happen. So if something bad happened, or if we did an exercise, I got to get rid of my ego completely. I have to be completely humble and just be so grateful that somebody gave me some extra information that now makes me better at my job and at saving lives. Like it's like, wow, thanks for that gift. It becomes a gift when somebody, when I learn something about the way I did something, and just look at it like that. Like your mistakes are a gift because you're learning a lesson and you get to grow from that.
I always said one of the things, knowledge is something you learn from a book, and wisdom is something you learn from a mistake. And it's true. But I said that. I knew that for a long time. I knew it. But I've only really started living it the last few years, because until you can embrace the suck and until you can be okay with failing and screwing up, that's when I think you really find success. I really do. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and learn and be uncomfortable. The only way to stretch is being uncomfortable, right?
It's true.
When I was at Self-Reliance Festival, Dave, a guy I just met there, really cool dude. Anyway, somebody asked me a question about generators, and he hopped right in. He's like, I hope you don't mind. He said, I know the answer to this one. And I'm like, why would I mind? I sat there and he gave a master class on setting up generators into the home. And I'm like, I just learned a bunch of shit. Like, how great is that?
Yeah. Like you answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah. I would much prefer. Yeah. I always want to learn, what else can you do?
Not learn. And
yeah, well, die. That's true. Yeah. And it's pretty miserable. So is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to make sure that got covered? And before we close, you need to tell everybody where to find you and everything. But is there anything you wanted to mention or anything? Or
I don't think so. I mean, next time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, you want to come back sometime?
I'm sure we have plenty to talk about. Maybe we'll research some specific topics.
I would like that. Yeah, this was fun. I'm a big, I don't know. The more I do this, the more I like open-ended conversations. I really do. I like to let people go, and because you'll find it, when you talk to people, when their eyes light up and they start talking faster and they get a little exuberant, they're talking about what they love, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So how Hunter wants to know your website, but tell us all the places that they can find the Preparedness Man. I mean, God, no, I'm just kidding.
I am all sorts of places. I'm most active on Instagram, so that's where I
first became aware of.
Yeah, I have most communication with people there. I sometimes drop a video on TikTok. I don't spend a lot of time on there. Sometimes drop something on Facebook. Hardly ever touch Twitter. I think I got something over there though, but it's cancer. And then I've got YouTube here. I'm not as active as I have been, but I still got a little bit of a repository. My website is preparednessguy.com. It's
www. Preparedness Guy?
Yeah. Yeah. The Preparedness Guy was taken. Yeah. It's not an active website, but somebody. So I know who has it, and I thought about trying to buy it or something, but we'll see. Maybe sometime. Maybe if I make any money off of this, and
that's what I want. Yeah. So toolmantim.com is also taken by some guy that's just squatting on it. I have toolmantim.co. But what are your plans with this? I meant to ask you this, and I know we were kind of wrapping up, but I mean, you're a professional preparedness dude, but you do this as well. Is it just out of the goodness of your heart, or do you want it to become a side hustle?
It's a side thing. I've got a course that I have out there on the Preparedness Foundations. I've participated in some things. I do affiliate marketing, get some cool things, or get some affiliate, money off of whatever. I've done freeze-dried candies, sold them locally, and tried to get people interested in preparedness. So I am trying to do some entrepreneurship and do something with this. But I think it's just going to take a lot of. I always want to provide value. So I whatever I'm doing, I want to make sure it's good, and then I want to provide. Like you said with your patches and stickers last night, like you want to provide more value than people are expecting, and that emergency plan is free. You get it. I think it's a good one, and I also I use it myself. But when you put in your email address, then I can start communicating with you. I have a podcast, so that was the next thing I was going to talk about. I just started a podcast pretty recently.
You did? I don't know this.
Yeah, so it's Preparedness Works, and you can find it everywhere. So I've got a few episodes of me just talking about some concepts, and then a few episodes of me interviewing people. And if you've got a story that where preparedness works for you, then I've got an Instagram page specific for the podcast. It's Preparedness Works, or you can send me a message on at The Preparedness Guy, and we'll get you interviewed sometime. We'll just talk about how preparedness works. Yeah,
That's awesome. Good for you.
I'm trying to get, there's just, again, I'm bridging this gap. You've got emergency management, you've got preppers, but there's so many people out there that are somewhere in between, and everybody's got to realize that, like plugging a tire, that would be a great story. Practical skill, something that benefited you. So there's so many stories out there where it's just something like that, like plugging a tire. He had a skill and the right tools and knowledge and was able to apply them. And you can have the right knowledge and skills and not have the tools, and you can't do any good. You can have the right tools and not have the knowledge or skills, and it's also going to not do you any good. So you got to have all of it. And then, that's basically what preparedness is having the right tools, knowledge, and skills, and you can practically apply them. But I'm trying to get stories, wisdom, tips, and tricks, and then just share that with everybody, because I really am passionate about preparedness. It's the bottom up that I'm working on. I'm sharing the principles that I've learned as a professional that have worked for me, and so find me everywhere as the Preparedness Guy, except I think Twitter I'm Chico Preparado, because it's just
that came from before. Yeah,
that was the only thing I could find that was taken. All the rest of the handles were not available. But I also don't ever go on Twitter, so I have a site.
Apparently, you use hashtags liberally.
Yeah, I have a bunch of hashtags that I just copy and paste onto each post. I don't know which one, if any of them work or whatever.
It's like trying to figure out the YouTube algorithm. I can't. I don't know. I put them up there because they say you're supposed to, and yeah.
So I drop a handful of it's maybe like 20 hashtags or something. It is quite a bit, but mostly I'm just trying to stay consistent, because then it shows. Maybe it's training the algorithm that my videos are related, and the people who go into them and are interested in them or similar topics will. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Takes me zero effort to copy and paste those hashtags, so I do that.
And if you need a guest, I would gladly come on at some point. It would be a lot of fun. So
awesome.
Absolutely would be a lot of fun. So yeah. Cool. All right. And I think I have your Instagram link in the description. If I don't, I will make sure. No, I'm 95% sure I put it in there. So I'll put the links to to Nat's places. Oh, I'm a dick. Yeah. Anyway, but I'll put them all in there for you guys so you can follow up with him. And
thank you.
Yeah, if you're up for it, I'd love to have you on again, maybe in the new year.
All right.
So maybe we could do something on, I don't know, like civil defense or the history of prepping or just a whole bunch of crazy things. That'd be fun. So
awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no problem. You can hang around in the background for a split second. I'll close up and I'll be right back with you.
All right.
Well, guys, that was great. That was just a lot of fun. Nat is a guy I consider a friend. We had a lot of good conversations, hung out, get to sit together at the kind of closing event at Prepper Camp, and just a really good salt of the earth kind of dude. So we will have him back. He's a good asset, and to the community as well. He knows his shit, guys. So reach out to him, give him some workshop love, and get out there and follow him in all the places, because that is important. That is one way that you can support all the creators that doesn't cost you anything, by just going around and subbing and sharing. So make sure you do. But guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.